in terms of what should be allowed?
I think it's common sense. I called it the Knutsford Guardian test, which was the main newspaper in the Sapton constituency. Whatever you do, whatever you claim, even when you take your holidays, how you vote, how is it going to look in the headline on your local paper? If it looks okay, you're right. If it doesn't, you're not. I also believe that the regulation of the House of Commons should be taken out of the hands of the House of Commons, because it has proved itself over and over again unable to regulate itself.
And what's the test for you, Zac Goldsmith, when it comes to claims?
Well, I think it's exactly that. I don't think you can legislate for these things. I think the only test is to reveal everything, totally transparent, and to allow the public to have their view. And that means not just simply screaming and yelling in the streets or not voting. It means actually being able to act, to get rid of and unseat unpopular, incompetent members of the political class. I think that would change things, and you'd have politicians being kept on their toes in a way that has never happened in this country. I think it would be electrifying. And I think politics would then be rejuvenated in that one stroke.
Andrew's in Somerset. Hello, Andrew. Is this scandal going to be a good thing in the long run for politics?
I don't know about a good thing, but I love the general elections. It's going to shake up the next general election like people don't realise.
Well, what do you think is going to happen? Increased turnout, as Martin Bell was predicting?
Well, no, what I was going to say, actually, you've had Martin Bell on, have you? I was going to say, for every constituency, party members, when they pick their next candidate for the next election, they've got them, even if it's an established MP that they've had for years, he's got to be squeaky clean, because you're going to have Martin Bells coming out of the woodwork left, right and centre.
And that's a good thing?
Well, it is. It's going to shake it up considerably. I mean, if you've got two candidates...
Well, let's ask two people who want to be MPs. Zac Goldsmith wants to be a Conservative MP, and Claire Hazelgrove wants to be a Labour MP. Do you two... I mean, no expenses claims yet under this particular system, obviously, but do you two feel that you are squeaky clean and it's right that you are prospective parliamentary candidates?
In terms of things like this, I think you absolutely have to be. I mean, nobody's perfect, but as the listener's saying, you know, when it comes down to standing and opposing an incumbent, you know, you've got their record now to go to. And it's going to be quite interesting, because we're now going to expect a higher standard, I think, after this from our MPs and from our candidates, and that can only be a good thing.
Zac?
Yeah, I mean, look, no one's squeaky clean, and if they were, I'm not sure I'd want to meet them. I think the key is abuse of power. I think that the one thing that separates, I sound very patriotic here, but the one thing that separates this country, I think, from a lot of other countries is that we have a fair approach. You know, if you're going to be locked up in jail, you're probably going to get a fair trial. You're probably not going to get beaten up by the police. Maybe they're not the best thing to say at this moment, but if you're going to get arrested, it's probably the best place to be arrested. We have a civil service which is not politicised too much, although things have got a bit worse recently. I think that abuse of power is the thing that people probably condemn most, and I think people, you know, if they had a mechanism for punishing effectively those people in power who abuse their position, I think we'd see immediately the politics would be cleaned up. That's the key. It's not about, you can't be sure that every candidate's squeaky clean, you can't be sure that every candidate is honest, but you can effectively deal with that, I think, if you look further afield and learn from other countries that have got it right.
Paul Buchanan is the Lib Dem candidate for East Devon. Hello, Paul.
Hello there.
Might this be a good thing for politics in the long run?
I sincerely hope it will be a very good thing for politics in the long run. I think we've become very complacent in this country over the last couple of decades under successive governments who quite obviously have been let down badly by a small minority of MPs who quite clearly have abused the system. And I appreciate that members of Parliament are all party to the system, and so therefore it's very difficult when you're inside it and immersed in it to see that there's anything particularly wrong, especially if everybody around you's doing it.
Is that fair, Martin Bell? It's so normal that MPs didn't even raise an eyebrow.
You know, this is what Elizabeth Filkin, who was dismissed, remember, as Commissioner for Standards because she did her job too well. She called it the Dagenham defence. You know, everybody's at it, so I too can do it. It's not acceptable, and I think there's a growing realization even among the political class. What I'm looking for in the coming days is the party leader who withdraws the whip from one of his miscreants. I think that's going to be one of the tests.
OK, Paul, and what... sorry, Paul, as you're going out and about in East Devon, what are people saying to you?
Well, I'm hearing on the doorstep from voters from all three parties that they are quite simply disgusted with the behaviour that they're now seeing exhibited in the papers of our MPs. And it doesn't really seem to matter which party they're from. although, of course, we do see some of the worst excesses being highlighted in the papers, which do, unfortunately, reinforce the stereotypical view of most normal people that MPs and parliamentarians and in fact elected members from all levels of government are interested only in serving their own interests rather than those of the constituents that they're elected to represent. And perhaps this is an opportunity for the British public to actually pull its respective thumb out and become more engaged in the process of scrutinising those that they would put up to represent them and, frankly, holding them to account for their behaviour. It is time for a wholesale change in British politics, and, of course, the Liberal Democrats would sweep in and sweep out this ludicrous first-past-the-post system and introduce proportional representation, as well as a number of other wholesale reforms. And perhaps it's time that the two main parties were given the chance to take a back seat and learn about modern politics in a modern world.
OK, thanks all very much for coming on the programme. John in Belfast says we need new politics with fresh faces, fresh policies and new parties for the 21st century. And Matt says, well done the press, you've finally done what you've been trying to do since Blair was elected, and that is to make politicians even less popular than the media. Time for the